Good evening, everybody. We are here. It's myself, Deon from Fortis, and I'm joined by Deon Coetzee, who is not, for those of you who are confusing the issue, Leo, who is the guy, Leo, not Leon, Leo, who is the guy in the video. That should be evident from the fact that Deon has a different pair of glasses, his hair is slightly longer, and he has a beard. But there's been many stories about this going around. Deon, apparently you're Leo's boss. Apparently Leo's your boss. Apparently he owns Fortis. We've just had this in-studio giggle about it. So before we really kick off, Deon, just introduce yourself to all the new people watching. Who are you? What's your background? And how do you fit into the picture? Because I obviously know you very well, but they don't.
Okay, I'm just the messenger at Fortis. That's that's the only thing I. Well, Fortis Proactive Defence Solutions is the company that I run, and basically we do training and we do a variety of training. Train security companies, train anti-poaching units, train civilians, farmers, etc., etc. Then we also supply tactical kit and gear and other equipment like drones and thermals and FLIRs and night vision and radars and stuff like that. And then obviously we also rather deeply involved in farm security, which is where we started. So just to clarify this position of where Fortis fits into this thing, Leo and myself worked together on a couple of projects, not just the training, but some of the projects outside as well. And somewhere this link was made between Fortis and Leo Prinsloo, and then suddenly, I don't know, the story was run and we had to do some damage control at the end of the day. Now, at this stage, in some, I don't know, some news agencies, as we said, say I'm Leo's boss, and then he's my boss again, and then he owns Fortis, and then this and this and this and this. But at the end of the day, we're in a partnership together with a variety of projects. The main one at this stage being the Lone Operator course, which he is the head instructor for. And that's how I fit into this picture. So everybody is now, sort of wondering who I am, but I'm not the guy in the van, not in any of the seats in any case. So we've decided, obviously, after this thing went viral and sort of blew up in everybody's faces, we've decided that Fortis will front this whole thing and make sure that we keep Leo safe currently, because there's definitely death threats on his life, and we are running protection and so on and so forth, making sure that we keep him out of the public eye and just keep him safe currently, so until we can get this whole thing sorted. And I think that's about it. That's where we fit into this specific incident. Yeah.
So that's very illuminating, and I think that kind of explains how serious the issue is and what the downsides to anything going viral can be, in the sense that, I mean, the guy's name, surname, face, everything was out there. It's not too difficult to get a hold of him and to issue these kinds of threats. But before we get carried away with that for too much, let's talk about the actual incident that played out. And I'm sure most people watched Barry Bateman's excellent coverage on ENCA of that, plus the additional footage, some of which could not be shown on TV for good reasons that I will not elaborate on. But what is your opinion, Deon, as someone who knows the ins and outs of this, of how that incident was managed, how the two personnel in that vehicle worked as a team of security professionals? What's your take on it?
Okay, I just want to clarify at this stage that for all official purposes, I am currently Leo's spokesperson in this matter. So all the facts and stuff that I will divulge here is obviously as he related to me. So as you can see from that video, if we take the video that was taken inside the cab, Leo and Lloyd was actually driving the escort vehicle. All right. So everybody was there's the first myth or fallacy is that he was he was carrying cash. Can you see me?
We just lost you there for a bit. There was the myth that he was carrying the cell phones,
South
but
Africa.
he
We
was.
believe in you.
Yeah. Yeah, you're back, Deon. I can see you.
Yeah. So he was escort vehicle. Yeah, he was in the escort vehicle, so he wasn't carrying the actual goods. The cell phones were in another vehicle in front of him. So the modus operandi of these criminals and all the CIT heists is basically the same. They send 2 cars or 3 cars or even 4 cars to take out the escort vehicle, and then at the same time they send another group of cars to take out the cargo itself. All right, so it's a double-pronged approach and a double-pronged attack. And in this case, you can see clearly everybody is speculating. Says Leo is picking up, his spider sense is tingling, and he's seeing stuff. In Leo's own words. And you can see this on that interview with Barry as well, that the first time he picked up that vehicle was when the guy was shooting. So the first time he picked up the vehicle was when the shots were fired. Now, if you look at that new video that was released, you'll see that the bakkie actually comes past him. The bakkie that's actually involved in this whole thing. The bakkie first comes past him, and then the shots get fired to him. Now, just on that point, you can see it's an Audi. I'm presuming it must be an S something. That fact I don't know for sure. But they specifically steal and choose these high-powered vehicles for this, so that once they start moving and going, then there's basically nothing can stop them. These guys are just flooring it. So the guys were obviously came past onto Leo's 4-5 o'clock, and then they started shooting. And there's 2 shooters usually. It's the passenger seat and the guy just behind him shooting. And then obviously you can see Leo starting to swerve. People are a bit confused here as well. But I mean, this is typical defensive driving maneuvers. This is exactly what you need to do. All right. So what he's doing in that video is exactly what he's doing. You can see that his instincts take over. So after the first shot, you can see him swearing at the guys, and then he goes, okay, and then he starts doing what he needs to be doing. I don't want to divulge too much on the actual tactics there, but he is doing what he needs to be doing and using the tank that he is in as a weapon to try and get those 2 cars either out of the way or get them, out of the fight, one or the other. Then the second issue that people has is, why didn't anybody shoot back? I mean, this is one of the first rules of driving in an armored vehicle. You don't break the seal, you stay inside. The moment you break the seal is the moment that the brown stuff is now eating the whirly thing.
No. Just to clarify that the windows don't wind down, guys, and there are no shooting ports installed in that vehicle. So the windows are fixed, and they weigh a considerable amount. I mean, it's I don't know the exact weights of bulletproof glass, but I know that an aircraft front window weighs a considerable amount of mass. So those aren't windows that can wind up and down. You are in that vehicle, and you are sealed in it in that armored plating, and you hope the aircon works, because you ain't getting a breeze in there. So sorry, carry on, Deon. Just adding that in.
No, that's true. Yeah, no, that's very important. People need to understand that. And then if you see that, if you watch the video showing the outside, then you'll see that Leo then obviously drives into where they've already pulled off the actual goods vehicle. And then he tries to ram the guy standing in front of the vehicle. Once again, normal procedure, trying to fight them with the vehicle, because at that stage, the vehicle is the weapon. All right. It is the biggest, it is the heaviest, it is the best weapon that you have at that stage. Now, just stop there a minute and appreciate the fact that Leo, with his experience and his training, and that is obviously an advanced driving instructor, and it clearly can be seen from the video how he handles that massive tank, So the moment you use that thing as a weapon, it's important that you also know how to. So advanced driving skills are very important in this scenario. So then he
Just as a matter
busts through
of,
those guys. Sorry.
yeah. No, I was just going to say, how much extra does that Land Cruiser weigh with all the armor plating? It's probably at least an additional ton added to it, or close to.
Yeah, I think it might even be more than a ton. It's a very heavy thing, man.
And it does not handle, because of that weight, the same way it would handle if it were lighter. The brakes aren't going to be as effective. It's going to have a lot more inertia. People also have the misconception that driving an armored vehicle or an armored version of an ordinary vehicle is not very different, whereas the handling characteristics are significantly different to 2 degrees.
Exactly. Yeah. No, exactly that. Yeah. So then Leo basically bursts through those guys, and later on in the video you can see that white double cab coming on the left-hand side, and he tries to ram them again. Still normal standard procedures, nothing out of the ordinary. He's doing what he needs to be doing. And then let's go back inside the cab, because this was the next point that people had a lot of shit to talk about. Why wasn't Lloyd shooting? I actually read one comment where somebody said he should have just pushed Leo's head to the front and shoot behind his head. And I was like, okay, clearly this guy has never been in any of this type of scenarios. But I don't know what people wanted Lloyd to do. Hold the gun better or smile more, or I don't know what people want poor Lloyd to do. At that stage he was sitting there composing himself, keeping in mind this was his 4th day on that job, and this was his first contact. I had a laugh with him the other day, old Lloyd, and I said to him, kudos to you, brother, because if those shots were hitting next to my head, I would have flinched. I mean, that's just normal human reaction. He was just sitting there, so hopefully he was scared, and that sort of helped him in that case. But I mean, anybody who's in his first contact, anybody who's in his 40th contact will be shit scared. It's not a question of this gets better and I can John Wick myself out of this movie. In the video you can also see Leo's breathing, as the adrenaline dump comes, and as he starts breathing, you can see him controlling that and breathing. And I mean, this guy with all the experience and all the training, but why can he control it? It's because of training. So you can't fault a guy like Lloyd just because he doesn't have the experience and training.
Yeah.
So as Leo said on his own interview, I would love to see all these. Can I say fucking on the show? Sorry. I would love to see all these keyboard warriors.
You can.
I would love to see all these keyboard warriors get into one of these vehicles and take some shots. That would be a video that I would love to see. Because it takes some doing. So eventually Leo obviously tried to turn around, do a U-turn, and get back to the vehicle. All right, but then he gets stuck. He gets stuck, and that's when he tells Lloyd to shoot him. Now, once again, the inexperience shows. Okay, it's no fault of Lloyd. This is a guy who's inexperienced, because an experienced guy would have jumped out and started shooting at the other vehicle. But Lloyd didn't know. He didn't know that. So you cannot fault the guy for that. I mean, that's just what it is.
No.
So they turned around, and eventually Leo rammed that Audi off the road into the parking area of the hotel next to the highway, and that's when Leo jumped out. So when he sort of, but at that stage the guys had already debussed, and they were scattering, getting into the other vehicle and going. And that's when the fight was over. All right. So fortunately, no incidents on the good side, but sadly, no incidents or no casualties on the other side as well. All right.
Just as a matter of interest, were any arrests made subsequently on these guys, or?
No, Gideon, nothing has been. The police have actually issued a statement on that and saying that the investigation is still ongoing, but no arrests have been made. And that's sort of, it's, I think that's the worrying factor in this whole thing at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I mean, just to add additional context to this, before I do that, the thing that I did notice from Lloyd sitting there, his trigger finger discipline was amazing. It was on point. He held that AR-15 with his finger away from the trigger, as I would hope my students that I, train now on a weekly basis end up doing themselves under pressure. That is very, very good trigger finger discipline. He followed Leo's instructions pretty much as close as you can under the noise and the shaking and everything going on in the chaos. But if you look at a lot of the other incidents that have happened in recent memory pertaining to escort vehicles getting hit, a lot of them, the guys end up dead. They end up cornered, disabled. The vehicle ends up being disabled. They end up debussing and getting shot. There was a very bad case, and I'm speaking from very faulty memory. I don't know if it was on the R21 or if it was on the R24 or where it was, where an escort vehicle of a gold shipment got hit, and the guys got caught outside the vehicle. And I think both of them ended up getting shot, and not necessarily killed on the spot, but ended up dying later in hospital. And it was this is generally what the guys succeed in doing when they take on escort vehicles. Yeah, it's not pretty.
I think what people need to keep in mind is if you see that, the glimpses that you can see of that Audi, for instance, the way that car is being handled immediately tells me that the guy behind the wheel knows his stuff as well. Right? It's not just somebody who, gets in behind a car and then, okay, let's go rob somebody. This is, you can clearly see from the, let's say, meticulous planning and so on, that these guys, they do a proper plan for this thing, and then they execute that plan, and speed and aggression, and they are in there and they do their thing. The stories that we hear there and happening inside T-Heist is very scary. It is very scary, so that's the issue. People need to appreciate the tenacity and the violence and the intent that these guys come with. So I mean, kudos to both of these guys. They, according to me, they did everything right. That's it.
Well, Nicolene actually asks a question that I myself kind of came up with, and under stress, you're going to be able to hit a PTT, which is push to talk. It's the button on a radio in order to make radio communication with whomever else is in your party a lot easier than dialing a cell phone under stress. I have had to make a cell phone dial under duress in a bad situation before, and out of my own personal experience, it is not a straightforward or easy exercise to do. Was there any specific reason why the cell phone communication was used instead of a radio, or was it just purely coincidental?
Okay, now there is actually a reason for that. The vehicles are fitted with radios, but keep in mind that this incident happened in Hatfield in Pretoria, and then the actual base is in Johannesburg. So just for the overseas viewers, that would give you a reaction time of about 30 minutes, 30. Whereas the reason why Leo gave the phone and said, call Josh and Robbie, because everybody asks, who's Josh and Robbie? Josh and Robbie were in the immediate vicinity of them, doing exactly what they were doing, escorting another vehicle. So obviously in that moment, Leo's mind was, get the closest backup. And that's why he handed the phone to him, because he knew. I mean, that thing is over. If you look at that video, that thing is literally over in under 5 minutes. So calling backup from Jobs, and we all know that calling 1-0 is like trying to win the lottery ticket without buying a lottery, or without buying a ticket.
Yeah. Forget about the SAP's response time. Then, yes, you can. Yes, you most certainly can. Because unfortunately, again, South Africa, this is a reality. You are not going to get. I think what people are more curious about, that there were no inter-vehicle radio communications, but that might not always have been a practical thing to set up. Sorry, Deon, are you still there? I think
Yeah, in this case,
there you go.
keep in mind that talking about inter-vehicle, in this specific case, the guys carrying the goods is not from the same company. So it's a separate courier company. So you're using the vehicle of the courier company plus the vehicle of the security company. So those two vehicles are obviously not connected. But if you see, keep in mind that the drivers of the other vehicle are usually not trained, obviously, as well. So these guys are just doing what they're doing, delivering stuff to wherever it needs to go. So it won't be any help to try and radio them.
Yeah,
so
the escort vehicles there for
the next
purpose.
Yeah, so it leads you to the next point. Why then not put more escort vehicles on, or why not put more Leos in the car, and so on and so forth? And it all comes down to what's the premium that the client is willing to pay. So if I'm the client and you are transporting my cell phones, and you suddenly, give me a bill of 60,000 Rand or 100,000 Rand just to get my stuff from Johannesburg to Pretoria, then I'm most probably going to say, no, I'll take my chances. Because why? Because my stuff is insured. And that gives us a new loophole. You see.
Exactly.
My drivers are instructed to run away at the first sign of noise and violence, and then let them take the phones and so on.
Yeah, and that is kind of unfortunately a thing. As someone who's now dabbling in the private security industry, clients don't actually understand how security works, and I don't mean that as an insult, but a lot of these security decisions in corporations or even smaller companies are made at almost like a management level, where there is actually no input from genuine consultants telling them, listen, this is actually what you need. Yes. What you're willing to pay for isn't going to really get you effective security. And then, as you mentioned, exactly the point will kind of, okay, yeah, but we have insurance that'll come in if things go really wrong. What they don't understand is that insufficient security may compromise their shipment, but it will also compromise the lives of the people doing the actual shipping as well as doing the actual security, because they do not have sufficient backup. And just good evening to the Colonel from the United States. Great to see you here, sir. Goeienaand. So hy verstaan ook mooi Afrikaans. So yeah, so you can segue off that and expand if you like, Deon. But if I'm talking absolute nonsense, just tell me.
No, you are spot on there, Gideon. I always make I'm actually sitting with this product. No, now I'm going to advertise something. So I'll advertise Prit. Right. So
yeah, go for it.
Do you think Prit will pay us for advertising this shit? All right. So in any case, I've got this product. And I think this is the best glue on the market. Let's ignore the name. This is the best glue on the market. And you can buy this from me for 100 Rands. All right. 150 Rands, roughly $10. Okay. Now, nobody's going to pay that for this thing. So what I've got is the best glue on the market, but I cannot sell it because nobody's willing to pay that for this. And this is exactly the scenario that we're talking about. You put that van, you put 4 Leos in there, then you're going to end up having the client foot a bill of, I don't know how much, but the client is just going to go, I'm not going to pay that. I'm not willing to pay that. I won't be able to pay that, whatever the reason is. And now suddenly I have the best private security detail, which nobody wants to use. So I've got a non-starter. I've got a zero product. That's what I have. And this is the issue. All right. But I think this thing is much more complex than that. If there were actual okay, let's, and I want to just sort of compare a scenario in the United States. Like, if I'm in the US and I phone 911, at least somebody is going to pick up the phone.
Yeah.
If I'm in South Africa and I phone whatever the equivalent is of 911 here, then as we said before, it's like trying to win the lottery without a ticket. Right. Now, what's the point that I'm trying to make there? The point that I'm trying to make there is, if we had a justice system and so on and so on and so off, that people are actually being prosecuted, and they are actually being, prosecuted by the law and the police and so on, that would put a different spin on things already, because that would change. Now the criminals know, because these criminals now know that I've got all the time in the world to take that van, either cash, jewelry, gold, doesn't matter what's in the van, and nobody's going to respond to that. So that's the other part of the problem. And I think, I didn't know, was it Brian that said here, I mean, look at the security industry as itself. It's now people. Somebody asked me, why would you do this job? Okay, it's simple, because if you don't do that job, you don't get to feed your family. But there's 47% of the country that doesn't have got work. They don't have work, and what do? So if you say, I'm not taking that job, there's 47% of people standing in line to take that job for even less money than they offer you. And what's the point I'm trying to make there? That's why people do jobs like this. They do this job because he needs to feed his family. So This is a very complex thing. It's not just, one or two or three things. This is a complex thing that if we actually want to sort of sort this thing out, then there Brian says it. And many security experts still advocate the police as the ultimate authority. We know that's not true. Okay. The police in South Africa is not true. That's the issue.
Yeah. But unfortunately, that's the point that's being sold. And it's being quite aggressively sold.
Sadly so, eh? And it's that guy with the funny hat, isn't it? The guy with the gangster hat.
Yeah.
That's selling this.
That's it.
I don't know. What's his name again? Mr.
Mr. Tilly. The twat in the hat. I think that was the Dr. Seuss version of him.
Yeah, sadly so. Eh? We are living in funny times. That's the issue. So that's the issue. There Martin says, no functional landlines. So who are you going to call? Not Ghostbusters in this case. You call Robbie and Josh, obviously.
That's it. Yeah, you call Robbie and Josh. What's it? Bekiktele. This is actually the thing where I'm not going to use the old thing of the rubber hits the road, but the private security industry in South Africa has been shouldering a disproportionately massive public safety burden that should actually not form part of their function at all. But because the police have been chronically incapable of fulfilling their constitutional mandate, and I mean, the National Commissioner, Kekha Sitole, in 2018 October already said to Parliament that the SAPs are overstretched and it's impossible. It is absolutely impossible, those were his words, for the police to fulfill its constitutional mandate. Now, when that situation has deteriorated to the point where it is, where that admission has been made, because I can promise you that lack of constitutional fulfillment happened long before it was admitted. The police will never, ever, ever admit, the commissioner would never admit a problem if that problem hasn't been around for a very long time. That hasn't improved. Why are we still telling fairy tales to society, in the sense that the only way you're going to state-proof your security is if you start taking ownership of it yourself to as many aspects as you can? And this includes corporations. This includes companies that move assets. One escort vehicle isn't enough. Like Leo they're lucky Leo was there, because if Leo wasn't there with his experience and his skill set, it could have been another case of a disabled escort vehicle and dead people next to the road and a gone shipment.
That's very true, and I think if we take something from this whole thing, if we take something from this incident and this video going viral and that, I think it's important to try and get this message out. That's what I think we should do. Brian, who are you talking about? I'm just doing the admin, Brian. Don't worry, man. I'm just doing the admin on this side. So the message that I think we should get out is to tell the world that this is what's really happening, and also tell South Africa that this is really happening. Because the amount of people who's asked me over the past week, oh, is this really happening? And I was like, where the hell do you live? You know, in which country are you living? Because we're clearly not in the same country, never mind the same town. But this is the shit that's really happening. So the message needs to get out there and say, this is what is really happening. And what are you and me going to do about it? What are we as the normal citizens going to do about it? It's time we stand and start pointing fingers. I know you guys on Paratus have been making a lot of noise about this since way before lockdown began. And I think we need more platforms like that, you know, where people can stand up and say, but this guy is not doing his job. This guy is fooling you. This guy is actually lying to you. This guy is stealing from you. This guy is doing... And we need to get these people out of those chairs. That is my responsibility as a citizen in this country. Get that bastard out. Get somebody in there who can do the work and who actually cares for the people of the country, and then do something about it. Then we won't have situations like this. That's the issue. You know? So what's my responsibility?
But of course, we know that Cele is there because he is he's a political ally of the president, and that our politics in South Africa is not about what is actually beneficial for the country or the citizens, but what's purely beneficial for whichever faction within the ANC wants to stay on top. And that unfortunately does filter down strongly to such things that affects people's personal lives, like security, like policing, like the criminal justice system being a broken mess. And as Brian McAllister says, I heard of the CIRA instruction. I don't know if it came from CIRA, or if it was a SAPS directive itself, that security companies may no longer work jointly with SAPS. The interesting thing about that is security companies didn't work jointly with SAPS because it was beneficial for them to do so. They work jointly with SAPS because the SAPS do not have the capacity to respond or even to perform their duties. Therefore, they needed the security companies to supply manpower, expertise, and tools and equipment, which they themselves don't have. Case in point, Somerset West, which is a borough, for want of a better word, of between 80 and 100,000 people, has 2 working vehicles to service that entire population group. 2 vehicles. And I mean, that's an isolated incident. There are rural areas, and this is the funny thing to me I donate to AfriForum. I like their work. They're good people, but there are sometimes I would like to sit down with them and say, but some of the stuff you ask for is being naive. You cannot ask for better rural policing. Go check out the average rural police station in South Africa and go see that there are 2 buckies standing there, rusted to fuck with flat tires. They are non-functional. Those are the only 2 police buckies for that district. And they are unserviceable, and there is no plan to get them serviceable. So you can find the police station in the Wetsdorp. None of those constables can respond to a crime if it's further than 100 meters away, because that's about as far as they can run. They can't drive out to Ben from Donkerhoek's farm and go help him in the middle of a farm attack, even if they wanted to, because they physically cannot do it. And that is the present reality of what we live with.
No, that is so true. That is so true. So what needs to be done about this thing, or what can be done about this thing? And I think somewhere in that lies the answer. So first of all, maybe more awareness, because as I said, a lot of people are now praising Leo about what he did and that. And please, Leo knows me. I deal with him daily, so he will not murder me in the face for this. He will not punch me in the face for this. Okay, this is actually one of his gripes currently, is that why do they praise him when there's a lot of other people doing the same job every day, putting on those bulletproofs, going out there time and again and facing this bullshit every day? All right. So what can we do about it? People need to understand this is how violent crime in South Africa has become. But people need to understand, because of the government's non-ability to do something, or they don't even I don't know what the word is, but they don't want to fucking do something. Okay, they don't care. Because of that, it's creating a haven for crime rings and gangs and stuff. If I say gang in South Africa, what immediately pops to mind? The Cape Flats. Okay. But people forget that we are currently dealing with the Greek mafia, the Chinese mafia, the Japanese mafia, the fuck knows what mafia in this country, all right? Who's these other guys who took over Mozambique the other day, those bastards, and all their chommies from ISIS, and everybody is here having a ball. Why? Because it's just so much fun here. Nobody's going to catch you. Nobody's going to put you in jail. And to this extent, I mean, Jan Cameron said the other day on my show, or on my talk, my show, as if I have a show, my talk, Jan said, you know, these crime rings or gangs came in and they actually started swapping stuff. So they asked the abalone poachers to give them abalone in return for the ingredients for tik. All right. Now that's how the crime is interlinked in this country. That's how the gangsters and once again, I'm talking not gangs like you see in the Cape Flats, and I'm not saying those are not bad gangs, but I'm talking international mafia rings. You know, this is bigger than what we think. And then people still think, oh, but they stole a vehicle and that's a separate or a loose incident, got nothing to do with the cash in transit heist. It's exactly the same people doing the same thing all over again. Because if I steal 30 cell phones and they all want, you know, these new, the latest iPhone worth 20 to 30,000 rand, and I sell that thing on the black market and I can get 10 grand per phone, well, what a bargain for me. I mean, I do that 4 times a week and I'm a wealthy man, you know. That's the thing.
No, there is huge money in what's going on at the moment. And before we carry on, Chris Wyatt has invited you onto his channel. Would you be keen to have a chat to the Colonel? He's got an awesome channel. I've been on there once before. Where can he get a hold of you, Deon?
Well, I don't know. You can send me a mail, deon@fortisgroup.co.za, or somewhere. I don't know where to put my number.
So hang on, let me put it down for you. So I'll just do a ticker for you. So it's Deon@fortisgroup.
Yeah, .co.za.
So I'm just going to put that on the bottom and let that show. There you go, if that's correct.
Yes, yeah.
That's where you can get a hold of Deon Colonel. And the fact that there's this wonderfully interlinked, well, not wonderfully interlinked, but this interlinked criminal economy that is running independent because of how wonderful a target South Africa is. That by itself is a damning indictment of the state of security. And the only way to solve this, guys, is personal resilience. Is you need to create personal resilience for yourself as an individual, and then combine this resilience with people on the same mission as you, and form communities that are resilient. Because that is not in itself going to solve any problems, but it's at least going to make you harder to hit, significantly harder to hit, because this government of ours is not going to improve the policing and the national security and the personal security situation in SA. Unfortunately, I don't see that happening, Deon, unless you've got perhaps more of a silver lining view than I do.
No, I think in South Africa we're sort of having a problem in that case. You know, you can either get on a plane, but not now. It's COVID, so don't get on a plane now. And so either that, or you need to live with what we have here. Now, somebody said that one of the comments I saw somewhere in this whole rigmarole was that Leo was acting. He was a real lone operator. Okay. Now, I just want to stand still on that phrase, lone operator. Being a lone operator in South Africa, I think the previous comment said that, end quote, you are your first and last responder. That's the whole thing. That's the key.
Yeah.
You and me in South Africa, if we don't understand crime and we don't learn to read and recognize crime, then we've got that's our first issue. That's our first problem. If we think there is no crime and it's got nothing to do with me, that's even a bigger problem. So once you start acknowledging the levels of crime that we are experiencing and the levels of corruption that we are experiencing, and because of the corruption we're experiencing more crime, that's when you need to understand, listen, I need to do something for my and my family's safety. I need to become that lone operator. I need to be that person that can work a gun, that can work a knife, that can defend myself. Okay. And I mean, we've talked about this thing previously, Gideon. We've got a lot of excellent international quality instructors in South Africa. There's a lot of people out there. Arno Barlow, Mark Human, James Smart, JC from Bravo Tactical, and so on and so forth. I can call them. There's a lot of these guys. Apologies for the guys whose names I didn't mention. Your money didn't clear in my bank account by 5. So, okay. But I mean, we've got a lot of these guys in South Africa that are very high quality instructors, and people need to get in front of these people and figure out, what can I do to safeguard myself? Because I am my first and last responder. That's just the bottom line. We've been talking this phrase for years now.
Yes.
And this has shown a guy who has trained, who's got experience, and who knows what he's dealing with could suddenly save the day. And I think that is the powerful message. That is the powerful message from there.
Well, that's actually a really good almost end point, but I would like the audience to just send us some questions. Maybe we can interact with them for 10 or so minutes. I'm going to start with Vona. I hope that's how I pronounce your name. What's the update on Leo and family regarding protective custody, and is Lloyd in the same situation? Is there anything about that you can tell us?
We are on it. We are on it. Everything is good at this stage. We will keep the heroes safe for you. So now you must know, right? There's other guys who are keeping these guys safe. You must know the shit hot how these guys are,
But I've seen the work you do. We actually need to talk about that again in its own independent, guys. But good stuff, Deon. Yes. I'm going to see what else we've got. Chris, the Colonel says, this is not how a civilized society lives. The gangsters can take out anyone, anytime. The only answer is to prosecute and eliminate gangsters. And that is absolutely where it needs to be. That is exactly what needs to happen. Anything that we do in the interim is a stopgap in order for that hopefully to take place. And that is the major issue what we have in South Africa right now.
Yeah, and this battle needs to be won at the polls, That's the thing. People need to win this battle at the polls. We need to step away from party politics and think, I must vote A or B or C. That's not the thing. No. You must go to the polls and say, you know what, we appointed you for the past 4 years. You fucked it up. You are out. Next guy.
Exactly.
You promise us ABC. We'll take you. We'll vote for you. Come in. But if you fuck it up, you're out. That's it. It's a very easy thing. Okay. There's no rocket science behind this. Because at the end of the day, what is the government supposed to do? They are just supposed to manage the money that I give them. They're not supposed to fucking start making their own decisions. They must just make sure the road that I travel on is safe. That's it.
Yeah. No, that's it. The what the politicians need to actually do is very simple and basic. Stop stealing our money would be a great start to that, but that's a whole nother live stream's worth of discussions. Gordon asks, even though no arrests have been made, have the assailants at least been identified? And do we have any expectations that they will ever be held accountable for this?
Gordon, on the first point, I'm not allowed to say anything. But on the second point, my answer is I doubt if we'll see them ever swing from the city gates.
Yeah. But hopefully they end up, they muck up another CIT operation. They end up perforated next to a freeway somewhere. That would be a good outcome.
I hope some of these fuckers are watching the show. All right. Because here's a message from all the ex-talkies. You touch Leo, you got cock on your hands, okay? They're coming for you. So don't fuck it up, boys.
That's a good message. I endorse that. That's almost how I want to end the show. Gerrit Buys puts it in context. Leo's actions just showed what fighting back can do. I hope this inspires everyone to start training. We need it. Why can't we get ex-task force members to undertake this? I think to a large degree, that's what is kind of happening. Ex-talkies don't disappear. They
but
go into other industries.
Once again, if I do training and I only end up with 6 students once a month, then how do I feed my family? But if I go and work in Afghanistan as an ex-task force guy, then I start getting paid my worth. And that's the issue. Once again, there's a skew in the industry, So if there's more people showing up for training, I've got a lot of ex-talkies out there. I've got a lot of ex-British military guys. I've got a lot of ex-call it. I've got CVs running out of my ear. And not only after this incident, it's been piling up for years. So we've got a lot of knowledge and a lot of expertise and a lot of goodness out there. But it's no point in, I put 6 students every month.
It costs money, and there needs to be buy-in from people who want the training. And as someone who's just started training, I can say this as well, is there's a lot of interest, but not a lot of interest turns into actual students, which is sad. Part of it is probably not good enough marketing, but guys, don't delay your own skills acquisition. Like, the only reason I'm telling you to start tomorrow and not today is because it's night right now, and it's highly unlikely that you will start now. But I mean, first thing tomorrow morning, get on it. If you want resources, I will tell you where you can go find training. You're welcome to come train with me, but if you prefer to train somewhere else, I will give you good advice. Just contact me, and I will do my level best. I respond poorly to emails. You will find me on live streams. You can get I'll give my email address now. But Lazarus asks, sorry, I hope I pronounced it correctly. Is there any sort of registry where information on CIT stuff is shared between private security companies? I doubt there is. I don't think there's that level of cooperation between private security, but Deon?
No, sadly not. It's one of the things that we fight with on the farms as well. You get all the communities that, let's say you get 5 different farming communities, and then we pick up a pattern. Ourselves will pick up a pattern. We'll pick up the same vehicle, the same people showing up in different areas in different times and dates, and start linking that to crime. And then we have to build that database, and that's the issue. But the communities themselves don't cooperate to that extent. Now, I just want to relate that back to security companies. It's the same thing, because my security company wants the contract. Now, your security company wants the contract as well. Instead of us collaborating on some level, we stuck with that age-old, no, let's rather not go there, let's rather not. And that's one of the things at Fortis that we are very, very, very tough on and very big on, is to collaborate with other instructors and other bodies and other guys out there. So you'll see, if you go and look on our website as well, you'll see a lot of links to a lot of other training institutions out there. But collaboration is the key. If we fight this thing together as a group or as a community or as a country, then we can start making an impact. And that is important.
That's exactly it. And this is the other thing, collaboration within the security industry. My own business is not quite set up yet, but we are talking to smaller providers on collaborating, because it makes economic sense, and it also means you're actually building an umbrella of skills and expertise that you don't have to own and pay every month out of your own pocket, but that you can actually provide as a package to somebody who might be looking for it, but you still get the contract with them, if that makes any sense. There is so much room for collaboration, but the bigger, more commercial companies aren't really interested in it. They want as much as of the pie for themselves. Not all of them. They are good people in the bigger industries, but this is also a lesson. What can be achieved through cooperation is, the potential is massive. And Stephen, yeah, I'm still at CHS. You can get me. I'll send you my email address where you can actually get a hold of me. So that it's not only Deon who's going to get hate mail tonight. But I think, Deon and I have done quite a few chats. Would you guys like us to do this more regularly and just unpack these sorts of issues? Because I quite enjoy it, Deon. I don't know if you enjoy coming on here, if you're just nice to me.
Gideon, that's something I'm not allowed to talk about now. So
that's classified.
That's classified information.
Exactly.
The fact that I think you must ask the listeners or the viewers that if they can stand this. I know everybody wants Leo. I know this is where we are. Everybody wants Leo. Yep. But sorry, this is it now. For now, this is sadly it.
Yeah. But we will get Leo hopefully as things calm down. And his life returns to normal, and when because there's a lot we'd like to talk to him about. And I'm sure there's a lot the audience would love to ask him, not about this specific incident, but about his, questions about his skills, his experience, his life, what it was like being in the task force, the cool stuff that people really want to know. So that would be great if we could get him on and talk.
Well, in time. Let me volunteer something else. If you want to talk about the task force, I've got a lot of connections, ex-task force guys that we can talk about the task force, the history of the task force. I've got younger guys that were in the task force very recently, and I've got the older guys like Leo who were in the task force obviously a bit longer ago, and so on. So there's a lot of people that we can talk about. Personally, I believe that the ex-task force guys, they know their shit. I don't care which intake they were. These guys have got high quality training. They were in the real life scenarios where you've got all the scenarios that we need to deal with. So I personally believe the ex-task force guys have got a lot to give. They've got a shit lot to give to the community, and we can learn from that a huge lot. But as I say, we must not forget the other trainers out there, as the names that I've mentioned before. Those guys, exactly the same. We've got a lot of expertise, and we don't. Apologies, Instructor Zero, but we don't really just need to listen to Instructor Zero as being the be-all and end-all. We have got enough quality in the country.
Absolutely. And I think let's Deon, if you're not preoccupied next week, maybe on Wednesday evening or so we can get together for another quick chat. I'm going to try and do a weekly. I'm going to try to stick to a weekly security talk or a personal safety talk or something like that, because I think that people are hungry for info, and there are lots of topics there's not much you can cover in an hour, but you can cover a lot of little things with a lot of little hours. So especially with some interaction. So I think that can be a good thing. And on that note, my dog is in need of feeding because he's letting me know it's time. But and he's more important than you guys. I'm kidding. I love the audience. But yes, my boy, we're going to feed you now. But ladies, gentlemen, and others, thank you for tuning in. I hope, and thank you, Deon, for enlightening us about the realities of the situation and the people behind it. It was absolutely invaluable.
Thank you so much. Thanks for the time.
Anytime. And I think let's try to do this weekly. Folks, you've been great. Thank you for tuning in. And see you next week, either Wednesday or Thursday. I'll create the video and link the time, but it'll probably be around 7. So see you then. Have a great rest of the week, and probably see you for Whiskey Friday tomorrow.